Okay, so this is going to be my first video on mindset reframing. I just need you to know something in advance. It's going to be a little bit of craziness. I take everyday words and modify the definitions to suit. I guess it started out internally where I modified definitions to make things work better in my mind. I basically create benefits for my mind by tweaking things. I am absolutely what I consider a word rebel. I have my own dictionary in my head. Everyone does. We just don't realize it. We all have our own dictionaries for every single word we know in our brains because everyone's definition varies slightly. I just like to recognize it consciously, not only that we have our own attached emotions and meanings and experiences to every single word that we know, and even more, we can modify them. We could clean them up, we can tighten them, we can alter them, and my personal goal is to make this run faster, cleaner, with less resistance. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk. I have hundreds and hundreds of, we'll call them mind hacks or thought hacks. I just picked out a handful of them just so I could touch on them to give you an idea about what is coming. There's these coined phrases, very popular phrases that we start learning all our life and they kind of stick in their head. They rhyme and they sound cool. I like picking some of them and then just digging deep into them. I like researching them. Where did the phrase come from? What is the intended meaning? Why does it stick in our brain? And then more importantly, I start breaking it down in little chunks to decide if I agree with every little piece of it. Like for example, one of them is work smarter, not harder. What is that supposed to mean? That means if you work smarter, then you don't need to work as hard. I broke it into two pieces. Work smarter, okay, I like that. I like it a lot, sounds good. And then the not harder part. Less effort, less physical work. That one didn't sit well with me. So I kind of set it aside. I go, how can I improve it? So I came up with something that maybe doesn't sound as good, but it works better for me, and that is work smarter and harder. Do both. If you try to compare work smarter, not harder, a person that is living by that mantra or that theme, work smarter, not harder, versus a person that is working smarter and working harder together, who's going to get better results or faster results or better quality or more volume of a result? Right now, without digging too deep into it, I'm going to pick the person that's working smarter and working harder. So that's one example. Another topic that I'm going to jump into sometime in the future is what I call delinking happiness from satisfaction. So for me personally, I define happiness as something that's internal, kind of more internal, personal emotions, and I kind of think of satisfaction as external. Satisfaction, when I think of satisfaction, I think about work, career, projects, endeavors, things outside that are typically and historically going to be cyclical. They're always going to be up and down. At the job, where we might have a different boss, we might change companies. So it's not always going to be great, but it's not always going to be terrible. It's going to vary and be cyclical. Different projects, whatever they may be. Anyways, all this external stuff, it's going to be cyclical. It's never going to be constant, which is good, because if it's constant bad, our life would be bad. But it's never going to be constant good or constant great all the time. It's going to be cyclical. So what do I mean by delinking satisfaction from happiness? So I think that naturally a lot of people, including myself before, I had my happiness linked to satisfaction. Meaning when the job was going really great, it pulled me up to great, and it pulled my happiness up with it. So I thought I felt happier. When my job was not going well, My satisfaction went down because it's cyclical, but it pulled my personal happiness down with it because I had these two things linked. So I just de-linked them. I kind of isolated them. I built a wall in between them. So my personal happiness inside, because it wasn't so connected to all of these cyclical things, I was able to calm it down and stabilize it and think about how could I build my happiness and have it isolated from the outside world that was always going up and down. And I figured out different ways to do that. My personal happiness is a lot more stable, feel a lot more peaceful, and life will continue outside to go up and down, and I'm accepting that. It's okay. So by accepting that and delinking it from my happiness, which I develop independently inside of myself, has really been great. It's been a great result. I'll definitely dive deeper into that in the future. I think I came up with the term, it's called earned freedom. And my wife and I recently sold our business in Austin, Texas. Our whole plan was to retire. You know, a lot of people said, why don't you do a partnership and keep a percentage? I go, no, we're gonna sell it outright. Everything. All the intellectual property, the logo, the brand, the equipment. We're gonna sell all the techniques, methods, I mean, every single thing, so that we don't think about it. So in the back of some people's minds, when they sell their business to another party, they're like, oh, they're never going to be able to do as good as us, da-da-da-da-da. Well, that's not what I hope for. I hope the new business owners would do better. They're making the investment, they're taking the risk. I want them to do well. I mean, I want them to 10x it, 100x it, you know, make $1 million, make $1 billion, whatever. I will be happy with someone else taking over something that my wife and I worked so hard on building and making it better. You know, I'm fine with that. Because I'm willing to let go, because I'm willing to mentally support the new owners, it gives me a sense of freedom. You know, I can completely detach. But then again, if they don't put the right focus, time, and effort and drive into it and it doesn't do well, I'm detached from that as well. It's there under their control. All I needed to do was make sure that I give them the absolute best knowledge during the business knowledge transfer, that I trained their team the absolute best I possibly could without holding back a single tiny thing, giving it all. There's a lot of information when you sell a business, a lot. I mean, it's everything from taxes to techniques to suppliers, many different strategies on sales, marketing, even historical data on where you started and how you got to the next step and the next step. I just put together a super spreadsheet and made a bunch of tabs and just put countless hours. Anything that popped up in my mind, I opened the spreadsheet and I added notes, comments, everything I possibly could. At the end of the day, when we transferred over the business, we did some on-site live training. While we're open and operating, we did off-site training, all kinds of training. We did it all, everything that we possibly could, every single tiny thing. As a result of that, my wife and I, we earned our freedom. Another one is talking about fear and courage. If someone could look at a list or a log of all the times that fear got in the way of moving forward or doing something, it would shock you. We need to address this. There's two types of fear, basically. There's mental fear and then there's physical fear. And what I mean by that is physical fear is when you're standing on the edge of a cliff and your entire body and your mind is almost going into shock, saying you're at great risk of massive or fatal injury and death. Well, that's what I call physical fear. Maybe bungee jumping or skydiving is going to trigger a sense of physical fear. Okay, I get that. No problem. Avoid, avoid, avoid. But when it comes to mental fear, like the so-called number one fear, public speaking, I had that fear as well. This is mental fear. I had that fear as well. I ended up joining Toastmasters, toastmasters.org, and slowly learn public speaking techniques. I tried it, I practiced it, just like learning and practicing anything else. Do I still get nervous when I'm on stage? Yeah, but the nervousness doesn't prevent me from giving a great presentation, from inspiring, influencing, and motivating people. It doesn't. So it's a skill. So this number one fear thing, okay, it's marketing. Without fear, there can be no courage. Think about that. Focus, the ability to focus. Well, I think when I look back most of my life, I think I had a tough time focusing. And I think the traditional idea of focusing is like fixating, picking something you want to focus on and trying to like stare and squint your eyes and mentally and physically and just lock on to this point, this dot, and don't look away, don't deviate. And I think I had a hard time with most of my life. And when I got older, I don't know how I changed, but I came up with a different method of focusing. And it's not new, it's just what I did and what works for me. And that is, instead of trying to fixate on a single dot, I tried a different way. I just came up with a way of eliminating the distractions. Somehow I cleared them, mentally, physically, or whatever. When I cleared them, the only thing left was the dot. And it was very easy to focus because it was the only thing left remaining. I wasn't distracted by other things. The method in which I'm able to focus better is simply by learning how to remove distractions. And there's a million different ways to do that. We'll jump into that deeper later. Hard work versus performance and results. In golf, there's I think it's a saying, and it's drive for show. That means drive where you're using the driver and you knock that thing 100 yards, whatever, 150 yards. Drive for show and putt for dough, meaning the putting is where the money's made. So thinking of that analogy in mind, I say hard work for show and results for dough. Looking like you're working hard, sweating, serious face and everything, okay. When other people see you, it might look like you're working hard, but are you actually getting results? What if there's another person that's working right next to you and they're not sweating, they're not making all these faces when they're working, but yet they're able to get twice as much done and the quality is better? So you really need to think about the results, the output of your time, effort, and anything else you're doing to put into the work. So if you're an employee working for some company, here's a little tip. It's okay to appear to be working hard. I actually recommend it. But regardless of how you appear, you need to focus on the results that you're producing or that you're delivering. We sometimes convince ourselves that we're working so hard. Well, part of that stress, part of that anguish or whatever is not creating any results, but we allow it mentally to make us feel like we're working harder, so we should get more pay or we should be compensated better. You need to think about this other guy that's not getting as stressed and and he's putting out twice as much results or products. You need to really think about that. Dive deeper later. Mind state decision making. I think I created this term. Basically, it's deciding in advance what your state of mind will be before any exposure to stimulus or environmental conditions. All it means is setting your mood or your attitude before you get exposed to whatever you're going to do. Let's say you're a Western teenager and you hear there's a party going on at somebody's house. They're going to have free drinks. There's going to be a little band, and there's going to be some girls. There's going to be some guys or whatever. You get all excited. You get cleaned up. You show up. It's like two dudes hanging out, drinking a couple of canned beers, watching some stupid movie. Well, now you get all upset and you're like, man, I'm out of here. So what you basically did was You obviously set some expectations. You got to this party, and as a result of your exposure to the stimulus or the environmental conditions, you made a subconscious decision on what your state of mind will be. You didn't realize this happening. You just reacted. You're like, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm going to leave. Now you're in a bad mood. Well, mind state decision making is basically, the way I do it is, I decide what my state of mind or mood will be in advance. Like, for example, I'm going to be in a great mood no matter what. It could be one guy doing absolutely nothing. When I show up, I'm not going to let anything affect the way that I consciously decided on what my state of mind or my mood will be. It doesn't mean I'm going to hang around with this guy for 2 hours. Maybe I'll go to another location, but I'm not going to let something external affect my mood. I've decided what my mood will be, and I'm going to carry that through. I'm going to be polite. I'm going to say, dude, man, I just thought there's going to be more people. I was expecting a little bit of a different scene. I'm going to move on to another location because I got some friends with me and they were kind of expecting this. You don't have to be impolite. Just move on, but carry that mood. Be committed to deciding on what your attitude or your mood will be in advance, and don't let external things disturb it. Consciously decide in advance and lock onto it and keep it going. Motivation kills. Get really simple on this. I think we put maybe a little too much reliance on this motivation thing. Oh, how do we get motivated? Motivation tips and tactics. How to get motivated in 10 seconds. Well, here's my technique. I don't rely on motivation. At least I don't think I do. I alter the definition. Motivation is not required to get things done. I skip all of that. In some ways in my mind, I have myself convinced it's a bunch of mental baggage to go through all these steps and all that other stuff. And what I do is, I just do it. If it needs to be done, and I have the immediate resources, whether it be time, an arm to pick up trash, whatever it may be, I just do it. And then I don't need to get into this deep, how to get motivated and all that other kind of stuff. We'll dig deeper into that. The power of taking responsibility instead of getting stuck in who's to blame. Very short story. As a business owner, I did have, even though it was my wife and I primarily 99% operating, we did have at different times a couple of people help us, a couple of staff or workers help us. I'd get upset here and there. And sometimes someone couldn't remember a couple of orders that I called out or something. So my conditioned response is to blame, and to, oh, this guy's stupid, he's being distracted, he doesn't care, and all this other kind of stuff. And then I started thinking, hey, I'm the owner. I have all of the authority. I have all of the power. I have the bulk of the experience, the knowledge. I mean, everything. I have the bulk of incentive to drive and make this better. Well, if I have all of these things, all of the authority, everything, the first question popped up is, am I not just a little bit responsible, even if it's what someone else did or didn't do? And I go, yeah, I have to be. And then I realize, instead of just being a little responsible, why don't I be 100% responsible? The second I realized that I was responsible, and the second that I accepted responsibility, it flipped everything back on me, and it triggered my mind. It triggered all of my experience, all of my knowledge, all of my creativity to improve the situation. So I made some changes inside of our business, and the result is it increased production. It simplified everything. Instead of having to call out orders, no communication was required. There's a lot more behind this. I'll explain the technicals, but wow. Being responsible is not a bad thing. So take responsibility. Okay, whenever I had time at my business, we were at right in the heart of the University of Texas at Austin, and had so many customers that were incredible college students. When we were a little bit slow, I would come outside of our food trailer and go outside at our tables and try to strike up a quick one-on-one conversation. They're partying, they're in entertainment mode, but Some of them I can connect to, and one of the topics I like to touch on was, I'd call it the skill of kicking ass. Because a lot of these college students, they might be working and focusing their education in a particular area, but a lot of them have no idea where they're going to be working, who they're going to be working for. Even if they're going to be working in that particular field, they don't know. It's haunting a little bit. So I just said, look, in the meantime, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about strengthening your skill of kicking ass. Kicking ass has a lot of different meanings. I'm not talking about going out and fighting and beating people up. I'm talking about kicking ass is kind of like a combination of focus, determination, and getting things done or amplifying things. So I told him, hey, if you have a part-time job, kick ass at your part-time job. Do good. Doesn't matter if everyone says that job sucks. You do good. You focus and you be the best part-timer at that particular job or that company. At school, try to focus more on becoming a better studier, becoming a better test taker, becoming a better thinker, becoming a better communicator, engaging more with fellow students, and paying better attention to your instructor and teacher, just doing everything better. Kick ass, kick ass, kick ass, no matter what you do. Make your bed, keep your room clean, kick ass, and just kick ass at everything. And why? It almost sounds like it's extra work. Well, just depends on how you interpret it in your mind. I tell them that kicking ass is one of the most and best highly transferable skills that you can possibly build up and carry and take with you. Because what happens is, once you discover what that future business or company is you're going to work for, or whether you start your own business or whatever it is, all of this built up skill, this massive built up skill of kicking ass is so highly transferable that once you land that job or whatever, if you have this ass kicking skill inside of you, it's like they can drop you in blindfolded on a parachute in the middle of the jungle, and the second your toe hits the ground, you're already kicking ass. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if you know right now at this moment what you're going to be doing in the future. Build the skill of kicking ass. Unlocking creativity, unlocking potential, unlocking opportunity. We limit ourselves in a lot of ways, and part of it has to do with what I'll call kind of invisible resource constraints. Some examples of resources are time, money, knowledge, experience. In a way, these are all resources. And we have a perception, at different levels or different times in our life that we have limited resources. And because we have subconscious limited resources, which are not accurate, this will prevent us from thinking about grander things or so what you do is you just imagine you have a lot of these resources. You have $5 billion, you have a lot of extra time, you have knowledge, experience, and all that other stuff. If you have all of these things, now what will your mind do when you start becoming creative, when you think about your potential? So it's not the lack of ability, it's a lot of it's constrained resources. Open your mind up and then start applying some of these resources backwards. Word gaming. So I was a project manager for many years in the wireless telecommunications engineering arena. I had a team of project managers reporting to me. We had a lot of work. It was heavy duty. A lot of people don't know how crazy higher level administrative jobs can be. Everyone had issues. Everyone on my team, I had issues. Issues are popping up, flies on old food. I thought about something, I go, issues are killing us, but it's not just killing us because of what we have to deal with, it's mentally killing us as well. So I had a bright idea, how to get rid of a lot of issues. And I called my team in for a meeting, which they did not have time for any extra meetings, not one extra second. Everything was that crazy. But I called them in. I think after the first 1 minute, they thought I was crazy and insane. And they're like, I can't believe this. I don't have time for this. But what I told them was, if you believe that any particular issue can be resolved, that has a likelihood of being resolved in the same day, then I don't want you to think of it as or call it an issue. I I want you to call it an item. If you think there's a likelihood that this issue can be resolved today, then don't think of it or call it an issue any longer. Think of it and call it an item. Basically, they made faces at me and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe this. This is crazy. This is weird." They walked out and left. A week later, probably my most experienced project manager came by my desk and he goes, "Hey, I feel compelled to tell you something. I almost don't want to tell you, but I'm going to tell you anyway." He goes, "Remember a week ago when you called us in for that weird meeting about changing issues into items?" He goes, "I actually thought about it and I did it." He goes, "I hate to admit it, but I think it worked because I feel a lot less stressed." He goes, "I still have a ton of items to deal with every day and still have issues, but I feel better." And I go, "Okay, good." And I think it worked a little bit. I've been collecting notes on these different ideas, techniques, methods, call them mind hacks. I have hundreds and hundreds of them. I'm going to pick some of them. I'm going to make individual YouTube videos. Sometime in the future, I might finally get into this graphics thing to describe it better, but that's just an example of the type of content that I'm going to be providing. It's going to get weird, man. I make up my own definitions for things. I twist things around. I do whatever it takes to benefit myself, and I want to take some of these benefits that I've created for myself and share them with you. And after you start working with some of these mindset reframing techniques, I believe that you're going to start thinking differently and you're going to creating some of your own mindset reframing for yourself. And then you will be able to go off and be great, hopefully. All right, thanks.